Hey, what's up, bro? Welcome back. There's an abandoned C6 Corvette Grand Sport right behind me, and today we finally got the missing ingredients to put everything back together. And I know it's been about 4 months already, but we're finally gonna get a cold start, and I'm talking really freaking cold. No need to worry if you're just walking in. There's no reservation needed. Just have a seat. The Corvette is here, back in the kitchen, ready to cook for you. I'm about to bless you with another episode of the Prime Corvette Recipe Build Series. And today's objective is to improve the cooling efficiency of my C6 Grand Sport. By the end of this video, this car is gonna be colder than Jack swimming laps at the end of Titanic. It's gonna get that cold. All right, let me read you the menu for today. Starting off with the appetizer, I'm gonna be serving the OEM cooler and OEM cooler lines. I'm currently not running any oil cooler, which I know it's a really stupid idea, but hear me out. This was my thought process. My engine blew up and I had to rebuild it, and I dropped some serious cash, and money was tight at the time. I wanted to get the car running as soon as possible, so I came up with a big brain idea to just bypass the cooler altogether. I thought it would be okay, but it wasn't, because Corvettes, especially C6s, they run extremely hot. So I figured I could save a little bit of money and get the car running up pretty fast by just bypassing the oil cooler. And as a result, the viscosity of my oil got thinner. I will actually see my oil temperature increase exponentially, but not only that, the oil pressure would slightly drop. On their heavy load, it was about 40 PSI, which I believe should be close to 60. Not dramatic, but I definitely noticed a difference. So one of the goals for today is for my LS3 engine to be as lubricated as the Rock and Fast and the Furious 5. So here is the solution: the OEM cooler. And another reason why I opted to use the OEM cooler and the OEM cooler lines is because I wanted to keep the original mounting position of the oil cooler, which is in front of the radiator. Usually, the cooler and lines would have cost me a whole rack, but I'm Chevy connected. So I actually save a good amount of money that I redirected back into the build on things that you're gonna see later on in the video. Surprisingly enough though, the OEM parts were not that differently priced compared to the aftermarket parts. And at my level of driving and what I'm gonna be doing with the car, the OEM parts should suffice. There's no need to go with the crazy aftermarket oil cooler. So in a moment, I'm gonna slide under the car, I'm gonna take off the bypass plate and install this cooler line. And normally you would want to evacuate the oil system, but the Mobil 1 oil is as expensive as avocado oil, so you know it can't be wasted. It's insane how expensive some of these parts are. I'm spending so many racks just to cook for you that you would think I'd be sponsored by Williams-Sonoma, but I'm not. A lot of these parts, or most of these parts, are coming out of my own pocket, and a little bit of it is coming from you guys, so thank you for that. All right, so we went through the appetizer pretty quick, but the main course, that one has to be experienced in detail to get the full effect. So what are we gonna be serving? The main course is gonna be an all aluminum high performance radiator from CSF. I know it's a very bold choice, but I think it's very necessary. Well, if you didn't know, my radiator blew up in one of the last videos of the series. And the reason for it blowing up wasn't my fault, maybe. Okay? But don't blame me, it's just part of the game. It gets hot up in the kitchen, and sometimes you gotta send it despite the high temperature. Shit's gonna burn sometimes. But we have a high quality product that is gonna make sure that this does not happen again. This radiator right here is gonna keep the temperatures colder than the actual temperatures where Crowberries grow. And all Corvettes are notorious for having overheating issues. But no need to worry anymore, because this aluminum radiator is CSF built. So the cooling coming out of this is gonna feel like Frost Krekling straight from the flask to this thirsty LS3 that likes to get hot. I think this right here is the proper way to counter it. And it's not just the lower density of element 13 making up 100% of the body, the fact that it doesn't have any plastic tanks, or the fact that it's meticulously and artfully tape welded all around. This right here is actually 52 millimeters in thickness, which is about a 193% increase in volume over the actual original unit. Frostbite might actually be a possibility at this level. It's got this little special design called B-shaped tube, which actually increases rigidity, it gives it more surface area, and it makes it a lot lighter. It actually feels like it's on a calorie deficit. And if that's not enough, it's a flex to say that these things are wind tunnel tested to ensure optimal performance. So my 6.2 liter V8 creates an exothermic reaction. This aluminum radiator creates an endothermic process. So what this translates to is really freaking massive. cooling gains. I knew my honors, physics, and chemistry class would come in handy one day, but in reality I just took them because I wanted to flex in a white gown. So this radiator right here is supposed to fit every trim level Corvette. As you can see, it's got different adapters here, one being for the transmission cooler, the other one being for the engine oil cooler. You can actually run an oil cooler from your engine block to this setup right here if you have the proper lines or if you use AN fittings. I opted out for that and I'm still gonna use the dry sump cooler. I just want it to be a little bit closer to OEM. I've heard that this is actually a good setup. It makes the oil temperature more relative to the cooling temperature, which is the temperature of the engine. So the radiator is out. Now we gotta figure out how to mount the oil cooler into the shroud because I actually may or may have not lost the bolts that mounted in place. So I gotta find something, but you gotta be careful. You can't just use any random bolt in here because if you go too deep, and it will actually puncture through because it's really shallow in there. So I'm gonna find bolts from 2 years ago when I took apart the oil cooler. So that way I can install it into here. You are not gonna believe this shit, but I actually found the bolts in a little baggie. I guess it pays off being a hoarder. I did not think I was gonna find them. I ordered a little end fitting plug, but I'm gonna see if that actually fits to plug up those oil cooler ports that I'm not gonna need. I mounted the radiator. It's too late to pull it out. Hopefully I have enough room to get those squeezed in there as soon as they come. But for now, I'm gonna get this mounted. So we haven't really made much progress because I haven't found the right fittings for the radiator. I already came up with the solution, but it's gonna take some time. But this is something really funny that I wanna point out. Look at this. Tell me why these oil fittings are packaged like Viagra. Like, what is this, bro? Looks like a sex supplement, but it's just the AN fitting. Either way, it's not gonna work. So the solution I'm gonna have to do, I'm gonna have to JB weld the hell out of this guy to plug up the hole and just use the fitting that it actually came with. All right, now it may seem like a little bit of overkill, but this car actually comes equipped with 5 oil coolers. 5? I think it's 5. Anyway, it actually has a power steering cooler mounted in the front cradle at the bottom of the car because this car was actually intended to be for autocrossing. This Grand Sport package, that's the way they were built. It's got a transmission cooler built into the radiator on the right side tank. That's how it comes from the factory as well. And the transmission is all the way in the back. So it takes lines longer than the in and out drive-through to connect both of them together. Now, in the back of the car, it's got its differential and it's got its own little heat exchanger mounted into the differential body. Why? Because there's literally no other place where you can fit a cooler in the vehicle. And not to mention, when you have the dry sump, the added Mobile One capacity does help bring the temperatures down even a little bit lower. If you get the Grand Sport, the Z06 or the ZR1, you get your own oil cooler. And if you get the ZR1, and I think the Z06 as well, it actually has another little heat exchanger mounted into the oil filter housing. Even with all those coolers, those 5 or 4 coolers, I lost count. This thing still likes to overheat. And that is so insane. And another way you're able to see that this car was meant to be driven is that it's got a few little vent ports that go inside of here to cool the brakes. And also, this little vent right here is functional and it does cool the rear brakes. This is a performance car, I'm telling you guys. We're gonna have a performance car that looks luxurious as shit and it's got a lot of the luxury features. That's the whole goal of this build, the Prime Corvette Recipe build series. That's what we're shooting for. So what is a good meal without the proper cocktail? My girl right here, she's got expensive taste. She doesn't just want anything off the tap. So I had to get her some special coolant, high performance coolant straight from VP. This antifreeze cocktail can decrease temperatures by up to 14 degrees. So VP claims that this antifreeze solution has advanced lubricating agents which are gonna help the water pump and the whole cooling system. And I know this is a cocktail, but it's ready to pour from the bottle with no chaser needed. And the aroma, when you take a little sniff, it's very distinct, like the herbal parts when you smell in the frost. This little cocktail right here is gonna take the experience to the next level. It's gonna get so chill, we may have to put in the Stone Island ski mask or I don't know, maybe a shiesty or something. You know what? I think it's time we talk about a little dessert. We're gonna be getting rid of the rubber hoses and we're gonna be using silicone from Mishimoto. Who uses rubber anyways? It's proper to use atomic number 14 after aluminum because that's what follows. If you know, you know. And even though we put a bunch of brand new hoses when we rebuilt the engine, the silicone hoses that we're gonna be installing are gonna be higher quality. They're actually gonna increase longevity. They have higher heat resistance, which means we can have fun for longer. Paying for a pair of silicone makes sense in this particular scenario because I'm gonna get to enjoy it. It's gonna make her look good and we can have more fun without having to worry. There's nothing scarier than when you're having fun, something busts, and then you find out that the rubber ripped. That's not gonna happen anymore. It happened to me once though, but I got creative, I had to improvise. I found some home utensils and I was able to fix the problem. On the side of the freeway, my Integra.
I found a cheese grater laying over there.
So we're gonna swap out the old hose clamps with blacked out replacements. But we're not just gonna stop there. We're gonna put the cherry on top of the dessert with a little cosmetic garnish. The stainless steel hose clamps are black coated, kind of like me in the North Face when the temperature goes under 50 degrees here in San Diego, which rarely happens. And these clamps are a subtle touch, but they're really gonna improve aesthetics, and they're gonna hold the Mishimoto's tighter than the center lock torque spec on a GT3.
I look tired as shit, but this is the face of commitment, of resilience, of not giving up. I just want to get this car running again. I can't wait till tomorrow when I actually put water and just start it. I actually didn't record much of putting the car back together because I just been squeezing it in here and there, working on the car, trying to figure stuff out because those little plugs slow me down a good amount. So today, it's late as shit during the week. It's after my full shift of work. It's after the gym. It's after taking care of everything I had to get done in the day. And we're doing overtime on top of overtime, just trying to get this thing taken care of before the weekend so that I can edit the video and upload the video for you guys. We're gonna stay positive. We're gonna hope that everything holds up, that I can just flush out the coolant, put the good stuff in it, and we'll be all good to go.
Finally, it's safe to say that the cooling system has been upgraded. Before, when you saw me outside in the vet, I was always pushing temps. That has been solved after all the mods that we threw in. So I guess my TV interior will get to stretch when I push the pedal all the way down. Right now, we're about to start it up and we're gonna hear that beautiful sound of V8 compression. Because, you know, car people like me, like you, the sound of V8 compression helps us decompress. All right, enough talking. Let's get some excitement going on. Let's turn this thing on for the first time now that everything is put back together. Look at this. Look how clean it is. I cleaned this baby up a little bit. You can't even notice it's got a new radiator on it, but it's there, I promise you. Best part, we're gonna get a cold start. That's too insane. That's too insane. I forgot I had the silencer on, but you're still hearing the beautiful exhaust note full effect. Hear that? Hear that? Experience that. That is the sound that I've been missing for so long. It's been about 4 months now. The money pit never ends. I noticed last night that one of the spark plug wires is actually broken. It's torn, but I do got some replacements right here. It's been idling for a little bit. Right now the car looks like it's colder than when Patrick and SpongeBob got trapped inside of Sandy's crib when they were trying to clap some Sandy cheeks. Is this what chewing 5 gum feels like? No, it actually feels like it was worth waiting 4 months for the special order radiator. We really cooked up in the last video when we put all the interior mods, and then the car broke down and now all we got is scraps. But scraps are to be expected whenever you're cooking. It's part of the game. It takes crumbs to make a full dish. That's all I gotta say. I swear I've been giving you guys quotes with these videos, man. I gotta go tattoo the streets with some Michelin decals. And I was gonna go alone, but since you stuck around this long, I'll let you go with me. But you're gonna have to wait till the next video so you can see that, experiencing all the new mods, all the new cooling system upgrades, and having some fun with the car. That is if I don't get caught for my expired registration. Which, in my defense, it's only a year expire, so we should be okay.